What's going on, YouTube? This your boy Haywood Heinous, and this is the second part of this series for Facts Over Feelings, and your feelings at the door, so we can get to the facts. And before I get into it, I just want to, give you guys some words of inspiration. I love this poem. It's called "If I Came Back Again, I Would Love to Be Black Again," and it was inspired by a song from the end of the movie, the Emmett Till movie that I seen on PBS, and so. I was so inspired and motivated by that song that I wanted to do something of my own. So it's just a quick little piece, but I hope this kind of gives you solace, especially with what we as a people are confronted with, because we need as much confidence as we can get, right? So it goes like this. I had a dream once that a slave confronts his master in the master's den. He contemplates that if he concentrates hard enough that he could jump inside the master's skin. He getting sick and tired of waking up asking how the master's been. He thought about killing him after he poured the master's gin using the same razor blade that he's forced to use when he has to shave the master's chin. But he wouldn't be a good Catholic then, would he? Because should he deny their God's infallibility because of slavery and freedom's incompatibility, then he might be kicked out, nigga. Because back then, in order to have a home, you had to be a house nigga. But he swore to his last of kin by the slave ship that he packed him in on the day that he came back again, he would love to be black again. Sort of like a black child to say life sounds scarier. Because not hearing each other do sound scarier. Maybe man could stop being so vain and explain why he ain't built a plane that could break that sound barrier. This little black child's view of the world is a composite of views, which means that he really only believes in two. One isn't preachers, but don't ask what would Jesus do, because they already think that they Jesus too. Second is that any second a weapon pulled by an officer could offer you death to prison, but the state of mind is a pendulum. That means when it swings and picks up steam, it creates a stream through human beings and breaks the chain in the space-time continuum. You better believe this is what a black child can conceive. Playing in old clothes, covering an old soul, way behind the tracks again. Thinking that with all this hurt and all this work it take not to be treated like dirt, won't stop me from wanting to be black again. I love it. Anyways, because of all the things that I've been seeing. And so, like I said, I'm a disgruntled individual for some of the information that, I find my people taking in, because there's a lot of disinformation, right? And I was even in a conflict with, a friend of mine, and we was talking about, the DNA. I was just letting him vent, and I understood where he was coming from, but like I said, look, we have to undergo a paradigm shift, right? Because look how contaminated the information is that we've been receiving. Even if so, I'm allowing you to be the judge after I give you this information, and then then you could just take it from there, right? And see how it compounds and it becomes more complicated and convoluted, right? With that being said, we were talking about DNA. Now we all know, like we said, with this DNA testing, most people, some individuals like Magbit or Truth say like, look, these tests are nothing but DNA kits. Individuals like Papa Duck, they've been screaming to the rooftops about, a lot of this being a sham, do your own research. So it's some YouTubers out there that are doing their due diligence and stuff. And I don't agree 100% with what everybody's saying, but you get the point. But my point is this. I go even further and I say they have yet to even prove that they've isolated the DNA molecule. The double helix strand, the double-stranded helix DNA molecule. All right. Now, this is the thing that we have to understand. The two scientists that were giving the so-called privilege of discovery of this molecule was Francis Crick and I believe his name was James Watson. So Francis Crick and James Watson, and they were given this credit in 1953. But 3 years prior than that, in 1950, they were given this picture, literally called a UFO photo, from a woman by the name of Rosalind Franklin. Okay, she was a so-called specialist in X-ray spectrometry from King's College in London. I believe that was the university or the college in which she was working. All right, so she sent them a photo in 1950, and that inspired them to, and they used the actual photo, right? And so, like I said, the waters is muddied in terms of why she probably didn't receive most of the credit. But I digress. The point being is that they never isolated the molecule, because what they do is they shoot these X-ray photons, this energy at the DNA molecule, and we know that the energy that keeps that molecule together is not strong enough to keep it together when there's X-rays being shot at it. So they've never isolated the molecule. That's a fact. Okay, and then when we take a look at what is like we talked about, the integral part, which contributes a lot to its function of the DNA molecule, so-called DNA molecule, and that would be what? Sugar. Okay? Deoxyribonose and ribonose are two sugars. Okay, because the DNA has three constituents, right? It's made up of three type of building blocks, and that is deoxyribonose, all right? And then you have a phosphorus group, and then you obviously have a nucleotide base, right? Okay, and so then obviously the whole term would be deoxyribonucleic acid. Now, the point that I'm trying to make is that this is why sugar is so important. Now, mind you, who was telling you, oh, your sugar don't really matter. You got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah, right. No, you can't. You know, I'm going to tell you how important sugar is. What is lactose intolerance? Lactose intolerance is you're intolerant toward the sugar. That's what lactose is. It is a sugar. Okay, and you don't have the enzyme, or your body has trouble splitting that sugar in two, because obviously it's a disaccharide, and your body needs to be able to separate it in order to use it, because what we know, the blood's main source of fuel is glucose. Okay, and if you're not getting it from a natural source, you're not getting it. So the blood's main responsibility, obviously, is delivering oxygen and nutrients to all, throughout the whole body. How is it capable of doing that if it doesn't have the energy to run on itself? Okay, this is what accounts for the brain fog, and this is what it calls for the difficulty in cognitive function and awareness, right? And we have to understand that and know that. And they are the ones, now mind you, what did we say before? We said that, in the earlier 20th century, Black people, before they were fully integrated into the society, and we're still not fully integrated, but for just, sake of conversation, before they integrated into society fully, they were, Europeans were leading in terms of the diabetic population. Okay, and we know that because we go back, a few hundred years. We know that the British Empire was getting tea from China, then later eventually India, after they went through the Opium Wars with China, from 1839 all the way into 1860. But the effects of the Opium War. Now, the thing is that they had us on some of our people on the sugar plantations, right? For sugar for their tea, right? Now, sugar was a sign of wealth. It was symbolic of wealth. So we didn't have the luxury, especially those who were poor, of being able to, consume sugar, especially at the level that they were consuming it. Now, at some point in time during that, in that point of history, a year's worth of a man's wages was 1 pound of sugar. Okay. And now it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Right. And now you find out that Black people are disproportionately affected by this metabolic illness that we call diabetes. And they know for a fact why. It is because they took our melanin into account. They knew for a fact that melanin has an insatiable appetite for fat and for sugar. All right. Now, what type of sugar that you're taking into your body to help repair and rebuild and maintain is critical. And it's like, oh, well, you don't have to eat sugar according to your blood type. Who would tell you that? Who does that benefit? You understand what I'm saying? That's what's critical to, it should be critical for your understanding. And for most people, it's not. And this is why I say all the time that they had already set the template. They had already laid the foundation for all these other things to occur, because now you believe it. You believe that they isolated the DNA molecule and it looks like two snakes going up a pole. You believe that. All right? Because they haven't isolated it. And it's all still theory. But you run around postulating like it's fact, parroting what he had told you. You see what I'm saying? Nah, and I won't accept anything less. I want you to show me the DNA molecule, Mr. I went to the moon. You went to the moon, but you can't see, you can't keep up with the coronavirus? Man, miss me with that. So this is what people are talking about. And shouts out, like I said, I mentioned a couple of brothers. Shouts out to all those brothers and sisters and people from all different persuasions and backgrounds who are putting their reputations on the line, their channels on the line, because this is how some people eat, like we said. So for them to come out and they've been saying it, like we talked about before, this is not something that we're going off even off the information that was presented in the first video, and from what you hear from other YouTubers and channel creators, this content creators rather. This is something that we're getting from them. The contradictory statements, the hypocritical behavior. Even when they asked Dr. Fauci, they was like, oh, why don't you have a mask on? He's like, oh, well, my life is different. What? It's different. When they're in their news conferences, they damn near cheek to cheek. Where your social distancing come from? Where So like I said, be careful. Even the stars that they're propping up now. You know, you got it. Like, remember, if you notice, and a lot of people weren't really paying attention because it didn't dawn on them that something like that would occur or would happen. But I remember, you know, and I would, you know, peek every now and then. I really would watch highlights because I'm still a sports fanatic, even though, you know, even a rigged game is fun to watch every now and then, you know, because it's entertainment to me. But, you know, when you would see some of the games and then you would look, you're like, Kobe Bryant has actually had a whole lot of games. You know, taking pictures with NBA players and his daughter taking pictures. I mean, you was just like, is something wrong with the thing? Is something? You didn't have a clue until weeks later. Now he's in his helicopter crash. You know, and you see, these are the signs that you got to be aware of. Like we talked about, their numbers are 3, 6, and 9. And, you know, you got to be aware of their puppets. And like, even when I think it was the Presidential Medal of Freedom that Michael Jordan was awarded by, you know, during the Barack Obama administration. And it was eerie that, you know, when you take a look at that photo that, you know, Bill Gates was up there while he was accepting that medal. I was thinking like, what the hell is Bill Gates doing there? But maybe, you know, the context had eluded me because I didn't happen to watch the whole video. I just seen the shot. You know, and that was one of the things that disturbed me. I'm like, Michael Jordan could be a part of this too. Like, they're paying a whole lot of attention to him. Don't be surprised if something happened to him. And I would hate to say anything like that or bring something on them, but their game is already, their script is already written. So it's not like I would be bringing bad juju, and you deserve bad juju if you working with them warmongers. Okay, so it's enough said on that. But the point being is that our information has to be accurate. We must do and continue to keep doing our due diligence, is what I continue to tell people all the time. You know, no surface level information. We don't do that here. And then, but you see what I'm saying? If they have yet to isolate the DNA molecule, and then they talk about they've built sub-disciplines off of that so-called discovery, then the whole discipline of virology and immunology has all have to come in question. Because then you already assume that, oh yeah, when you split the double strand and then you do a complementary DNA, because this is that test that they're talking about that they did with the antibody test, which is called the RT-PCR, which stands for reverse transcriptase, you know, protease chain reaction. Okay. Now the reverse transcriptase is just this, is like most of the time, and you know, according to them, transcription occurs from DNA makes RNA. Okay, now they found out through supposedly a virus, which these virologists in 1972, which is a guy by the name of David Baltimore and a Japanese scientist, had discovered this reverse transcriptase phenomenon, where they saw that what viruses do is they take, you know, because they're just full of RNA, they don't have any DNA. They'll take their RNA, go inside the nucleus of a cell, tell the DNA to replicate that, then the DNA makes the RNA. All right. So with that being said, that's reverse transcriptase, okay, when RNA makes DNA, okay, and so then you have the protease chain reaction, polymerase chain reaction, polymerase chain reaction, and what that does is they take a segment of DNA and begin to just, amplify it. They have to start off with a sequence, and then they just continue to keep amplifying it, right? And you know, the difficulty and all of that, like we said, what fragments are they isolating? They can choose and pick between, because we know that, like I told people before, this test would be a broad spectrum test. It would not isolate just the COVID-19. It would be any form of the coronavirus, you know, and considering the fact that, like we talked about before, you probably came into contact or had somebody who had the flu shot, or came into contact with somebody who had it and you got sick, more than likely that genetic material may still be inside of you. And who knows if that's even what they're testing for. You see what I'm saying? And this is where the danger is posed, because, and then like we talked about, let's go back to that. We have to understand that once the foundation is laid, or that paradigm, and then you build your knowledge on top of that, everything else after that must come into question. Because like we said, if you haven't isolated the double helix molecule, then what the fuck are you really doing? What are you really doing? You see? And this is critical for you to understand. You can challenge them on it. Show me a real picture of DNA. No, the closest they came, I think, was in 2016 with some Italian scientists, and they were able to isolate a strand, and then they modify. I mean, come on. And that's if we have to believe that photo that you took. And you still only got one strand. Oh yeah, well, you know, the microscope was just dealing with too much, you know, too much energy being shot at them. So of course the strands are going to break apart, but they're there. Oh, they better be there. And somehow you better find a way to show me, because other than that, we're working off faith. We're working off your theories once again, and that's unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And this is where my disgust lies, because much of of our world operates on their theories, and that's unacceptable. You see what I'm saying? That's not kinetic science, you know, and like we said before, we must do our due diligence and understand that this is something that we're not going to take anymore. This is an opportunity, like we talked about, in order to garner, in order to harness that energy that we know will help to liberate ourselves and the people around us. Once we take charge, once we take up the challenge, once we become industrious and ambitious, and once we accept no prisoners in terms of dealing with these terrorists who are determined to rid us of our existence or rid us of this experience, you know, in this existence. And so we have to make sure that you know, we remain steadfast, because it is a very challenging. No one's making light of this, you know, but the fact of the matter is, you unwittingly are, when you don't understand what mentality that you have to have once you leave those doors. You know, like I said before, like I was talking about, you know, take the time to start fasting. You know, just in case that you have to. If you have kids, especially if you have 4 or 5 kids, you definitely may have to go hungry. You may have to want to start practicing that now. Because, you know, as a parent, if you love your children, if you have to pick between you and them eating, you know you're going to let them eat. You might not eat for 2 or 3 days. Like, look at the supply chain. You know, for you know, obviously, food is definitely being compromised, almost beyond repair right now at this moment. You know, and then they have this, we need to get rid of this food. They got farmers just dumping produce in the middle of the street, burning it, and all because, it might be contaminated with COVID-19, and, you know, this, that. Hey, we might get, they're shutting down the Tyson plant. I don't need none of that garbage. And for those who do eat meat, no, they're finding out that these you know, huge operations, you know, huge food operations are, you know, obviously shutting down. You know, and then what's going to be next? We know that the truckers, okay, eventually that's going to take a toll with them, because they're not impervious. They're not immune, right? Okay. And even if they are, they still want you to get the vaccine. Okay. You know, like we talked about with Cuomo in New York, he did that study with 3,000 individuals, and he said 13%, there go those numbers again, you know, infected, which he extrapolated that, and then said that from that, based on those numbers, it must mean that 2.7 million New Yorkers are infected. They created antibodies. This is antibody test that we're talking about, okay? The PCR, polymerase chain reaction, okay? All right. And what's interesting to note is that, like we said, now we got to also, once again, turn virology and immunology over on its head, because now you're saying that, okay, they have the antibodies, which means they have natural immunity now. Okay. But what does that also mean now? Oh, they still want you to take the vaccine? So double immunity? So you want a vaccine so that my body can naturally make antibodies to it, which now, as you ascertained, it already has, but yet I still have to have the vaccine? Negative. Negative. No, see, we have to discontinue this thought process where we have to allow, you know, we have to hold them responsible for the bull crap that they're telling us. Have to make it match up. These are the things that I think make me tremendously upset, is because only thing that I am asking, from what you had taught me, make it match up. You see what I'm saying? Make it match up. And that's what we have to understand. And then, you know, so you have these individuals like, and they criticize us because we do have a different science, you know, and just because we use different words to describe what these things are, that's what they did. Look on the periodic table of elements. Germanium. Germanium was named after Germany, where they discovered the element at. That's all they do. So what makes your naming process, what makes your nomenclature more important than mine? Because they're in a seat of control. Okay? Carbon means black. It means coal. Okay? What allowed them to be able to name that? And though they know that they're right. And this is what you're made up of. See, because you don't know what you are, they are able to define who you are. Okay? Oh, African American. Oh, I mean, we're Indian. We're like, what are you though? You see what I'm saying? Because then, like we said, if we tap into that potential, if we tap into that reservoir that was given to us by the cosmic energy that has understood that we have become and left, you know, as the vanguards of this experience, then we must know that, look, it's on you to become the best that you possibly can be. And remember, and recall what we said before, you refuse to live up to your potential, and you continuously deny yourself. because that is exactly what they desire, you know. And before you wake up and realize what you are, and they usher in a new society and show you exactly who these individuals are, or who these entities are that are really controlling and pulling the strings, it will be too late. And then you're like, oh my God, you know, your mind is blown, and what you know, you should have known that you were capable of this. They've spent the whole time since they've been interacting with you, or since the conception, you know, of their civilization, or so-called civilization, that they knew that they had to study you and figure out what it was that they can do in order to contain you, because it was no way that they would be able to contain the energy that you were blessed with, or that you were created with. They've tried. They've tried taking melanin pills. They've done everything in their power to become part of the, you know, the living experience. But the reality of it is that, you know, the shortcoming has been, it is just not in their nature, you know, for the vast majority of them. And so, like we said, what we're battling is an energy that is feasting, and that is destroying, and that is, you know, causing the world to regenerate, the earth as we know it. So, like we said, that's a totally different mentality to have. Stop running around assuming, okay, that this just, you know, once humans get back in order. No, mostly all the 40%, like they said, like, let's remind ourselves, 40% of the colonies, bee colonies, had to be replaced. New colonies had to be brought in. They had to be bred, because the bees are just constantly disappearing. And who do you think are wielding those weapons to cause that disruption? You know, right now, like I was talking about, somebody was like, oh, well, yeah, you know, Michigan, you know, all these people. I don't care. Like we talked about, look at the end game. We're not saying that some of those actors, you know, of course, the individuals that were interviewed, they probably were handpicked, you know, but we do know, especially me living here in Michigan, we know that a lot of people from this state participated in that protest, staying in their cars and peacefully protesting. Okay. Because what are some of the measures being taken by this draconian government on this level, where you got a governor sitting up there banning the buying of seeds, but you declare food to be essential, yet I can't plant my own food? The hell does that have to do with the coronavirus? You see, something is foul. You see, and this is what we're talking about. It's like, you know, you have to understand what's going on, man. Nobody, you know, can bless you with that insight. That's why it's called insight. You know, you have to, and all you got to do is ask your body for it. You are the organism. You are all of that. You know, it is you. It is in you. You just have to have a desire for it. You know, and with time, you know, but you don't have much time, so hopefully you can accelerate your development. But with time, you become more adept, and you become more advanced. You become more proficient in your approach. And I guarantee you that success will be inevitable. But as long as you have this mentality where you think like, well, okay, I'm waiting on normalcy. I'll hide in my little corner. I'll obey. I'll do this. I'll do that. And I'm not suggesting to do anything extreme, but all I'm suggesting that the only thing that should be done that is extreme is you colonizing the mind. The first one to the mind is the winner. Become a winner. What did we say before? Like what old boy said, and we talking about material losses and gains. And this is what we buy into. So this is why a lot of us are really depressed, because we know that they're winning on that game. Like he said, they privatize their winnings and they socialize their losses. In private, they bail themselves out. And socially, they make you responsible. Oh, you know, hey, one person can spread to 40 people and 40 people could infect thousands. It's on you. No, it was on you. Y'all in the alphabet boys. Like we said before, all these damn movies about the CIA, the NSA, the DOD, you know, you act like you're running around, you know, locking up the most, you know, godless people on the planet who are determined to bring the population down to 500 million. And yet in real life, you can't do shit. You can't do nothing. You ain't good to nobody. So which means that you must be part and partial, or must be complicit in the downfall of the human race. So, you know, that to my, you know, that to me is important. That's what we have to understand. We must find our motivation. I already know what my motivation is. It's you guys. It's my son, you know, and not in that order, but it's my son. It's you guys. And, you know, you just have to maintain vigilance. And this obviously is something that I find myself prepared for. Remember what the Most High said. It wouldn't put you through anything that you were not prepared for. You must trust in that. But you must open yourself up simultaneously. and understand that, bring me the higher form of me in order to make it through this. You see, it was something interesting. I was watching the documentary. It was talking about how, there are different forms of possession. Obviously, we know about demonic possession, but we fail to realize that we all in some way want to be possessed, or we all in some way, have a desire to become our higher selves with telepathy and telekinesis and, psychometry, all of these paranormal, abilities that we know live inside of us that we exploit in our dream state, but yet we don't become convinced of when we wake up, and that is our downfall. Because like he said, even praying is a form of telepathic abilities, because you're trying to send a message to a higher power and hoping that that higher power hears you, which you say that he does. That's telepathy. And it just amazed me, like we say, everything is hidden in plain sight. Well, we can do it with God, but we don't want to do it without. That's crazy if I do it to my mom or my brother and sister. But God, I'm praying, I'm here, please hear. What do you think that you're doing? You didn't pick up a phone to call God. You said in your mind, and then some people say they hear something back. So they're telepathic. Let's stop playing, man. We only allow it to be acceptable in the forms that they deem. You hear me? This is crucial for your understanding, because we know, like we said, when we take a look at the animal kingdom, we can see them modify themselves. We can see them evolve in order to survive. And then if we were to have their abilities, it would be considered superhuman. So we're not denying that the energy exists on this plane. They're just telling us that we can't do it. So get out of this idea of step one where is it even possible? We know that it's possible, because what have they already told us through science? Everything is made up of the same energy. Everything. Okay, so stop being in dispute of whether or not it's possible. Just try to employ it and make it happen, because we have to understand the tenet of success, which is repeat to remember, remember to repeat. If indoctrination is successful because of repetition, anything that now, like we talked about, get your favorite number, get your favorite letter. And I'll reiterate this, whatever your number is and letter, attach a mantra to it. Talk about how, thirsty you are for knowledge. Every time you see that number, you repeat that mantra in your head. You see the number 3 or 5 or 6 or 7. Now, mind you, any inequity that's associated with numbers and symbols and stuff is on the part of them taking advantage of the power. Anybody can take advantage of the power. Just look at the swastika. That's not a German symbol. But I'm pretty sure I ain't got to go through the history of, where the symbol originated. And, even then the origins are still in question. But as far back as they can date it, we already know it didn't start with Germany. But yet when we see that swastika, what are we associated with? See, they steal the power. Stop every time. That's what people get these symbols. Oh, I seen 666 and I seen da-da-da-da. Yeah, if they using it, of course. And if they using it and they don't want you to use it, now I'm not saying use it. I'm not saying that take the, you associate a number, you see a number, you say, oh, the numbers ain't do nothing wrong. You think I can throw numbers at you? Okay, but their numbers we know are 369, because we know that those are, for the most part, there's no number higher than 9, according to what we know or what we have been taught so far. Okay. And so, these numbers, have significance. And like we said, it's not like we can go about not using them. Do you skip 3, 6, and 9 when you count to 10? No, you don't. You know what I'm saying? So we don't. And we got to get out of this idea in the conscious community about, what we've heard and all. Use what you can. Like I said, put together those emergency kits, brothers and sisters, of your supplies and those backpacks and stuff. Only take in information that's going to be helpful to you and being in survival mode. Like I said, right now, I watch a ton of videos about how to, create generators, with magnets. And DC and AC motors. This is what it's come to, so if the power goes out, you're doing everything that you can. And if everything hits the fan, you realize that you did everything. You won't be satisfied till you know that you've done everything in your power to ensure the security for you and your family. Trust me. Otherwise, you will live with a world of regret in this life and the next. This is what we need to do. This is what we demand of ourselves. And I demand it from all of us because I know the potential that rests inside of you. I know that it is innate. Nobody can fuck with us when we're at the top of our game. And we need to come to the defense of this planet because it has done nothing but allow us the greatest experience that we could ever experience. And that is what we call life, brothers and sisters. That is what we call life. Don't give it up too easily. Fight tooth and nail for it. You understand? Because you have to know this. There is nothing that you can do to appease the devil. You cannot civilize the devil. All right? So I say that to say this. Might make a third part right quick just to touch on some final thoughts and stuff. But your boy, Hey Heinous is here. We out.